All right, guys. Well, we are live back here on my YouTube channel here. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that is all over the news. So if you're living under a rock, you may not have heard the news, but there's a lawsuit between National Association of Realtors and home sellers throughout the country. And today, I'm going to be joined by my good friend and esteemed colleague, Mr. Dan Parker, to talk about how this could affect home buyers and sellers in San Diego and beyond, and what this could mean for home prices moving forward. So I'm going to bring Mr. Dan Parker on to join me on stage here.
What's up? What's going on,
thanks
Bern?
for joining me, man. I know this has been a crazy week with at least headline news in the real estate market.
Look, there is big change afoot. There's no question about it. And man, I've seen headlines, I've seen analysis all over the place. There's a ton of misinformation, but I know we were talking right before we came on here, Bern, and we said, look, like what we don't want to do is come on and just act or just talk like nothing's going to change, because things are going to change.
Sure.
But we need to educate people because there's so much misleading information out there. We'd love to just have a conversation, get some comments and some questions down in the chat and talk through it and let you guys know from our perspective what we're seeing. But we really want to be open-minded on this.
Yeah, because this came up on the news was it last Friday? And the headlines were very jarring, especially if you're someone that works in the real estate industry. Yeah. So once you got a little more information about what it is, because sometimes the media likes to glamorize headlines a little bit, get clicks and that sort of thing. So in this live, we're going to talk about what it all means for everybody, what is actually changing, what isn't changing, and where things will go from here, which to be honest, we're not sure exactly how this is all going to play out over the next 6 months, year, or 2 years. But we have an idea based on what we are allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do. And we're going to break it down for you guys in this video.
Yep.
Okay, first off, I just wanted to start with some of the headlines that were presented over the last couple days here. Let me see if I can find it. Give me a second.
Should we real quick just say what the lawsuit specifically was about?
Yes. Okay, sure. I mean, do you want to start, Dan?
Yeah, that's fine. And I love actually Ryan Serhant, who he's an amazing person, an amazing agent. He had a really good kind of definition, which is the lawsuit alleged that real estate industry and the National Association of Realtors conspired to obligate a seller to pay a buyer agent commission. And the settlement that was reached acknowledges that the traditional real estate model needs to change. So that's kind of what happened with the lawsuit and where we're at. And then as far as the settlement, there was monetary damages in the $400 million range, just specifically from National Association of Realtors, along with some other settlements from other major brokerages. And then the two big things, and this is where everyone's this is going to bring prices down, is number one, a seller or a listing agent is no longer to publicly advertise on the multiple listing services that there is buyer compensation pre-negotiated on a listing. So traditionally right now, it's like I go talk to a seller, I tell them, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here's the commission amount that I recommend. Approximately half of that is going to go to me. The other half is going to go to the buyer's agent. We get that all in the contract. And then we advertise that on the MLS, which goes to Redfin, Zillow, all those other sites. So that can no longer happen. The caveat is they can still pay for the buyer agent commission and they can still market it other ways. They just can't market it directly on the MLS, which is a big deal. And then
I find it funny that was like the one big change that they wanted. You can still offer it, but you just can't put it on the MLS. So I thought that was an interesting way to do it. Like that was the big change they decided on. So
and I think what they're trying to do is add transparency, which is a good thing. I want to see more transparency. I think it's good for everybody. The downside of this is I think it's also going to push a lot of people into the opposite. It's going to push people into talking to one real estate agent who's representing the seller, and then the buyer has no representation, some backdoor deals. I think those types of things are going to become more common unless they get rid of dual agency in California, like they do in other states. Which means
they actually are talking about doing that as well. I'm not sure if that's actually going to happen or not, but
I think it's important.
Do you think that would be a good thing or a bad thing for the real estate industry? Dual agency, like banned in California.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to explain what dual agency is? We're just using real estate terminology.
Yeah, I know this is. We always think that everybody knows, but obviously not. No one knows really what it means. So dual agency means the same. Actually, technically, the same brokerage is representing the buyer and the seller, but usually people are more worried about the same agent representing both people. So say you're selling your house, or you have an agent selling your house, and then the buyer goes directly to the listing agent to try to buy the house from them. Some people compare it to be like, say you're getting divorced and you have the same lawyer representing both sides, which usually that's not a very good way to do it. So that is the reason what dual agency is. And they're saying a lot of states in the US that is not legal at all. California is one of the states they actually allow it. So,
and the reason it's an issue is because you end up with like pocket listings, and there are different tactics that unethical people can utilize to try and control both sides and gain more commission all around. And I'm talking about real estate agents specifically. So instead of going out and getting fair market value, they're trying to keep it all in-house so that they can gain more commission, but then they can't really have a fiduciary duty to both buyer and seller. So it just becomes legally like, I've never thought it was a good idea for dual agency. I've never liked it.
Yeah,
but now it's going to make it a little bit more.
It's definitely not my favorite thing. And I would be actually 100% in favor if they actually banned it in California, because it's just,
I agree.
Like you said, how can you be fiduciary responsibility to both people when the seller's trying to get the most money, the buyer's trying to get the least amount of money, and just like disclosures and that sort of thing. I always thought it was like a slippery slope. So
agreed.
If they actually do change that, probably a good thing for most buyers, at least.
Yeah. Okay. So, but real quick. So the three things: monetary settlement, cannot advertise in the MLS, and that goes to Realtor.com, Redfin, Zillow, all those other places. And then the third thing is a requirement for buyers to be in a buyer representation agreement with a buyer's agent. So in some states, this is really, really normal. In California, it hasn't been. I mean, I know you and me, Bern, like we've never really forced someone to sign an agreement to work with us. We basically just work with them until they're ready to submit an offer. So now it is requirement to sign an agreement with us prior to even viewing homes. So those are the three big changes.
Is that right? You can't even show them a home unless you have a buyer's broker agreement. Is that the actual law? Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious to see how I mean, I'm just not used to using them because I usually just did a handshake agreement. Like, okay, like I trust you, you trust me. Let's go do this. Let's go buy a house. So I've had very good experiences with it up to this point, but now if we're forced to do it, I mean, it's better that they force everyone to do it or they force no one to do it, because otherwise it's going to be too murky, I think, as far as deciding if you should have an agent or not have an agent. Do you think more people will forego having a buyer's agent moving forward?
Look, this is the part where we don't know for sure.
Yeah. This is definitely a what if situation.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm excited to get into some of these articles so we can start to pick some of them apart. But here's what I can say. If right now the way things happen is you have a buyer's agent and you have a listing agent, this is really mostly just affecting the buyer agent side. The listing agents are still going to go to the sellers in the exact same way that they were before, saying, Mr. and Mrs. Sellers, here's everything that I'm offering to sell your home for, a lot of money for as much money as possible. And here's everything I'm offering. Here's the commission that we have for those services. So that part's not going to change. On the buy side, I think there's a possibility, especially in the short term, it's not going to change much, because although it can't be advertised on the MLS, I think a lot of the listing agents are going to tell them, look, here's the reality. You are going to be in a disadvantaged situation if you don't plan to set at least something aside to pay a buyer's agent. Because if you don't have the opportunity for every buyer that wants this house to put an offer in by offering some form of compensation, then you're going to minimize the amount of offers that you get in and the quantity of, or the price of those offers. So I think that, I don't know, it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, but for sure, there's not a way where buyer's agents just are gone tomorrow. It's not going to happen.
I think there's a lot of people. I mean, even before this ruling happening, there were people out there that did not want to use buyer's agents. They would go directly to the listing agent. That's just the way they like to negotiate it themselves. They like to, they think they have an advantage by doing it that way. And that'll never change. There's always going to be those people that want to do that. But I think there are a lot of people out there that really value and need help from a good real estate agent. One thing I think will happen from this is, like, I know this could go either way too. People say that a lot of realtors will leave the industry, which I actually selfishly hope that actually does happen, because there are a lot of like part-time real estate agents in here that have their license. They work at, doctor's office on the weekdays or do Uber, and then they do real estate on the side. So I just think it will actually help the industry to have a more professional atmosphere around it, because I think sometimes people there's a really good real estate agents that do a great job and do a great job for their buyers or sellers or whatever it is. But then there's that other group of people that sometimes are just doing it for an extra buck, and they don't put as much effort into to learn about the markets, the neighborhoods, the negotiation skills, all that sort of thing. So I'd be interested to see how it plays out, though.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think there are specific people, specific situations that maybe they don't want to go with a buyer's agent, and that's totally fine. But like I can think so my mom is a real estate agent in she lives in a 55 plus community, and she does a lot of dual agency because she has a lot of people that have done a number of transactions over the course of their life, and they feel like they can get a deal by going to her. And of course, there are fewer hands in the pot, so there's an opportunity to maybe cut a deal. But the seller's only going to accept that if they're getting more money as well. And then usually the real estate agent is getting more money out of it as well. So it's not like you get rid of that buyer agent commission and that all goes to the buyer. That scenario is just false. But I think like investors, like specific people, it will maybe make sense for some of them to go directly to the sellers. But first-time home buyers, people that are relocating, VA buyers, like there are a lot of buyers out there that, like you said, like they don't even know where to start. There's discount brokers today. There always has been, not always, but for a long, long time, there's been discount brokers
for a long time. Yeah.
Yes, but it's a different level of service. And for first-time buyer, even if you've just been through the process maybe a couple of times, if you're coming from a different area, you don't know the area very well. There are a lot of situations. I would say for a majority of people, they're going to want to be represented to have someone that they can trust and go to ask questions.
Yeah, for sure. It's just like doing anything. Like even like if people say travel agents aren't even around anymore, but they actually are around, and they're actually doing pretty well from what I understand. So it's interesting. They
just don't have offices.
And they also, I was reading in some of these articles we'll get into, they're saying that with the advancement of portals like Zillow and Redfin, that's what will make realtors go away. But this is just, they've been around for, how long has Zillow been around for? Like 15, 20 years? So these things have been around for a long time. And yes, they help with your home search because then you can see photos and videos very quickly. But that's just the very small part of being a buyer's agent here in San Diego. So.
Well, but here's the funny thing. Here's the one challenge with what you're saying right there. The way that Zillow makes money is because they sell what they call warm leads to real estate agents that want to work with buyers.
Sure.
So they will have zero way to monetize that if they aren't getting those agents a commission down the line. So the way, like Zillow doesn't do everything they do for free. They have a way to make money, and it's through buyer agent commission. So if that's gone, Zillow has to find another way to monetize, or Zillow's gone.
Yeah. That's a huge part of their business model. So if buyers agents go away, Zillow could potentially go away. Like even any of these ones, Zillow, Trulia, Homes.com, they all make money off of real estate agents. So if real estate agents aren't or buyers agents aren't there trying to get buyers clients, then it could be a problem for those portals. Which is why a lot of those stocks have gone down over the last couple of days. I'm not sure if you noticed that.
Yeah, and that this conversation is nuanced because they're all a little bit different. Like Homes.com is monetizing more off of listing agents who are still getting compensation. Redfin, they have their own brokerage so that they're actually out selling homes for a discounted amount, and so they could still monetize off of a lot of that. And then this is where it comes into like maybe there will be new models. Maybe there will be a new Zillow, and they just go directly to the buyer. They leave the buyer's agent out, and they're offering a service for a very low fee. Like what does that service look like? I don't know, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for everyone to compete on the discount side, because I don't think people realize how much goes into what we have to do, and how many people we work with that don't end up ultimately buying and just, people see this big, large commission. They think, oh my gosh, they're absolutely crushing it. This is way too much money, but there's a lot that goes into that.
And maybe commissions go down a little bit for buyers agents, but you're still going to need to pay someone to help you. Otherwise, you're going to do it completely yourself, which some people are probably going to be fine doing. So we'll see what happens. But let's dive in some of these articles so we can kind of see what people are saying and if we think they were correct or not. Okay, so the big one that came out was the first one was the New York Times one. This one's that broke the news. Powerful realtor group agrees to slash commissions to settle lawsuits, which even that is misleading. title right off the bat.
Yep.
Because as long as I've been in real estate and way beyond that, commissions have always been negotiable. So to say it's been slashed is slightly misleading. It's always been negotiable. It will continue to be negotiable moving forward. The only thing that's, like you said, was changing is how you can't list the buyer's commission on there. That will be a negotiated part of it. Sellers can still offer commissions, as we noted before. And I guess the big change there would be like if you sign a buyer broker agreement with a buyer, basically you hope that the seller will still continue to pay the commissions. If they do not make the commissions, theoretically the buyer could make up the difference for whatever they're offering versus not offering based on what you agreed to pay the buyer's agent. Correct? Is that how you read it?
Yep, that's it.
Yep. So like you said, most sellers will probably continue to offer buyers agents commissions. Could that go up? Could it go down? It's probably not going to go up, but could it go down or stay the same? It could. So that will definitely be over time. I don't think this is going to change tomorrow. These laws or rules go into effect was it July 15th? I think was that the date?
They're saying mid-July, so sometime in the summer. This is gonna go into effect, and then the process for us, the standard operating procedure before we submit an offer, you and I always pick up the phone and call the listing agent to ask some good questions about the sellers and try and do these little things to make the offer stand out on various things beyond just price. One of the questions that we're just going to ask that's going to be part of the process is, did you have a discussion with the sellers about an opportunity for a buyer agent commission? So we'll know before we even submit the offer as to whether or not they're willing to do that. And then maybe there will be some negotiation necessary. Maybe the buyer will need to finance or come in a little bit out of pocket for that, or maybe, like you said, our commissions come down a little bit. So all three of those are options.
I think there could end up being like a little bit of a hybrid version. Maybe like sellers pay a portion and then maybe buyers have to pitch in a little bit to cover the difference, something like that. Every situation could be a little different depending on the seller and the buyer. So we're learning this as we go here. So this is obviously very, very new to us. Yeah. And we'll see how we can navigate it all together here. So a couple things in some of these articles that people are, these are all just guesses by a lot of people. So that's not surprise. In the media, economists estimate the commissions could now be reduced by 30%, driving home prices down. I thought this was funny. Driving down home prices across the board. The opening of a free market for realtor compensation can mirror the shakeup occurred in the travel industry with the emergence of online broker sites such as Expedia and Kayak. Do you know Zillow was started right around the same time as Expedia and Kayak? It's always been the same. So it's just and why would prices go down in this situation, Dan? Can you explain that to me?
Yeah, and I think I'll start here by saying this is another thing that we discussed. Like, I think all of this stuff is happening because there's pain in the marketplace. Bern and I understand this is has not been an easy place to buy a house. I've been in the industry for 7 years. Has not been an easy place to buy a house for the last 7 years, but especially since 2020. There's been a lot of pain. There's been a lot of inflation. And it's easy to sit back and point the finger and say, this is an easy solution. Realtors are making too much. We need some of that money back. But when you actually process what's going on, like let's just say that this is true. So there's no such thing as a standard commission. A standard commission has never existed. But I would say, Bern, would you say the most common that we've seen in San Diego, somewhere between total commission between buyer and seller agent, is 4.5% to 5%?
Yeah, I would say 4 to 5, really. Right?
Okay. Yeah. So let's just say 5%. We'll knock off 30% of that. So, or no, I'm sorry, half of 5%. So half of that would be the buyer's agent, which would be the part that would be affected. Now they're saying 30% of that, or 30% of the total commission.
I think it's a total commission. Does it say total?
Total commission. So 30% of 5 would be why am I blanking on this?
Well, so you can do it as a $1 million purchase. You want to do it off that way?
So 30% would knock off 2%, right?
Off of the total, yes.
Okay. So we knock 2% off of the total. Let's just say we're knocking 2% off. The seller's not going to give all that up. They want to keep some of that for themselves.
They're going to try to max out whatever they're trying to do. They're not just going to be like, oh, I didn't have to pay that commission. Let's lower the price 2%.
Yeah.
So they're going to be like, I want every dollar I can make, no matter what, is what they're going to do. So
Yeah. So that's the reality part is, let's just say commissions get knocked down by 30%. That means the reality is maybe home prices come down 1% in a market where we went up 8.8% total last year and we're still going up right now. Like, that's going to come and go in a blip, and it's not really going to have any effect at all on buyers. So it's just interesting.
It's and then what was the other? I was just going to mention one other thing. Oh, one thing I was like, if it does become, say, hypothetically becomes cheaper to sell a home, do you think that gets more people to sell, or is it keep status quo? It's always going to be the same. People aren't just going to move because it's cheaper to sell.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to. What's going to have an effect on people selling is rates coming down and the capital gains exemption going up. Those are the two things that are going to have an effect on people selling. This is not going to have an effect on.
Wait, did they change the capital gains exemption?
No, but they need to.
That's
just what I'm saying is a solution.
I didn't think it was actually happening yet. So, okay. And then here, some experts said that shift on commission structure and the billions of dollars that would flow into the housing market as a result could spark a recovery in the housing market, going so far as to say it could be as significant as the 1930s New Deal, flurry of legislation and executive orders signed by President Roosevelt designed to stabilize and rebuild the nation's economy recovery from the Great Depression. I just don't understand why. What do they mean by recovery? First of all, like,
this is asinine. That's a crazy statement.
What are we recovering from? The market, at least in San Diego, is like super hot, at least in like a lot of areas here in San Diego. So just like to say a housing recovery, the only reason we recover is like we get more houses. Like they build more houses and there's more people to buy them. And then that could level off pricing here. But as of now, these first 2 or 3 months of the new year has just been as crazy as it's ever been. So I don't know what even the recovery means on that one. So
no, this could be. I mean, I guess I'm trying to find my way to the other side a little bit here to get some perspective. Like, this is a nationwide article. They aren't just talking about San Diego. We know the San Diego market.
San Diego is probably an outlier compared to a lot of the neighborhoods or communities and cities throughout the U.S. So.
Now, I guess I'll throw in another thing, which is not what this is talking about, but this is what they're creating is all of these, because there's been just a ton of articles coming out, a flurry of articles since this came out on Friday. And it's possible that these articles and headlines can have an impact on, on buyers' presence in this marketplace and sellers, just like consumer perception of what's happening in the marketplace. There could be sellers that are saying, I'm going to wait to sell because I'm not going to have to pay a real estate commission, not really truly understanding how all that works. So going to be buyers that are saying, I'm going to wait to buy because home prices are going to come down in the middle of summer. And so I could see this flurry of headlines and news actually cause a slowdown in the marketplace, but I don't think that's going to bring prices down. I think it's just going to continue to slow already what is the slowest market in the last 20 years.
Like, does it slow down buyers from buying and does it slow down sellers from selling? And then we're like right where we have been this entire time. So there's a lot of
things worse.
Cause and effect that we're not quite sure how it's going to play out because this is a new thing. So as we learn more, we'll definitely share it with everybody here along the way. We always try to tell it like it is, I think. So hopefully people find some value out of it, and we will continue to go doing that moving forward through our videos, hopefully.
Yeah, for sure.
Here's another one from CNN Business. The 6% commission on buying or selling a home is gone after Realtors Association agrees to seismic settlement. Have you ever had a 6% commission, Dan?
Obviously, they've never heard of Redfin.com's 1% commission.
Exactly.
Shout out to Redfin. No. Look, buyers have had the opportunity, sellers have had the opportunity to negotiate commissions always. That's never gone away. This is going to make it easier for them to negotiate the buyer agent commission, sure, but they've always had the opportunity to go to discount brokers to sell on their own. That part hasn't changed whatsoever. But like to your point, 6% would mean 3%. When you're saying 6%, usually that would mean half of that would go to the buyer's agent, half that would go to the listing.
3%. Right.
Now, I don't know what all the listing agents are getting, but I know what was being advertised on the buying agent side. In maybe once out of the last 100 transactions I've done, have I had a 3% commission, and everything else has been majority has been 2
again,
or 2.5%.
We are in San Diego, which is a higher price point. So typically, I mean, I wouldn't say this is guaranteed, but higher price points sometimes brings a slightly lower commission.
For sure.
Like if you lived in, I don't know, give me a lower place like Tampa, Florida, maybe. Like maybe you see more of those just because it's a lower price point. But I don't sell houses in Tampa, so I don't know.
How about shout out to Warner Robins, Georgia, Misha?
That's right, Misha Thompson. If your guys looking at realtor and Warner Robins, hit them up.
Yeah.
Okay. This agreement. This is just another couple of things I just highlighted. Agreement effectively will destroy the current home buying and destroy. That's interesting. The current home buying and selling business model in which sellers pay both a broker and a buyer's broker, which critics say have driven home prices artificially higher. For some estimates, real estate commissions are expected to fall 25 to 50%, according to TD Cowen's. I'm not sure what that is. This will open up opportunities for alternative models, which I think could happen. There's always going to be, I feel like every year there's some kind of alternative model, even in the current way we do business. And usually they do fairly well in hot markets, but when the market turns and it's an actually, more of a buyer's market and houses are sitting on the market, those models tend to fade away. So I'd be curious to see how it works. And again, in the housing market, even the home builders, a lot of them will offer buyer's agents commission, but when the market's super hot, sometimes they don't. So it's probably not going to be too much unlike that in certain situations, I think.
Yeah, again, I think it's very easy to think that there's a lot of money being thrown around, but there's not a lot of understanding of how difficult and expensive it is to run these types of models on a high level. And what comes to mind immediately is when Redfin and Zillow and Open Door decided it was going to be a brilliant idea to buy homes based off of an algorithm and then resell those homes, and they lost billions of dollars. I mean, insane amount of money. But the same thing with Zillow and Redfin and these types of models that are out there currently, just the way that they are right now, it's really hard to monetize those so that it's actually extremely profitable. And if you're offering some form of super discount commission structure that actually still has the level of service that you need to buy homes, I'm not going to say it's not possible, but it's going to be really, really hard to monetize that on any true level.
Yeah, definitely. I had one thought on that too. I just lost my train of thought. I was reading another article. I'll get back to it. This marks the biggest change in the housing market in a century. Although it's unclear what the future of the housing market will look like, this Miller, he actually works for the University of San Diego in the real estate department, expected home buying to pick up somewhat as costs fall dramatically for home buyers. I thought was strange too. What costs were going to fall dramatically for home buyers?
Yeah, I mean, if anything, this is where it's always been confusing. And this is where I do kind of understand to some degree where all this is coming from is, sure, the seller pays the commission, or actually technically is the listing agent gets a commission and they're sharing they have a co-op, commission that is going to the buyer's agent, but it's the buyer that's buying the house. So the house is this much money and this much commission is coming off of it to go to the agents. So I guess there could be a way that you could say the buyer was paying for both the buyer and seller agent and listing agent commissions. So
I like to think of it as the buyer is paying for the commission, but they're not. It's almost like a delayed payment. Like you're paying it when you go to sell the house.
Yep.
Because it's just so much easier for the seller to pay for it because they usually have made money on the property, and the buyers are usually not everybody, but first time home buyers are down payment in there plus closing costs and all the other stuff. So, it's worked for many, many years. Could it be changing? It could, or could it relatively stay the same just with a little tweak here and there? So, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah. But reading these articles, and the interesting thing here is every time we hop on these Zoom calls or these, we do these videos, we bring up these really deceptive headlines. I mean, we all know that's what the news is made of these days, these deceptive headlines.
Well, they want to get clicks, they want to get views, all that good stuff. So,
but what's crazy about these articles is it's more than just the headlines. You actually read through it and you're like, that's just factually inaccurate. Is there just an incredible lack of understanding of what actually went down? I should have sent you some of these articles, Bern, but I was reading through a bunch of these articles and they just kept going into so much detail on how much money sellers are going to save because now they can negotiate with listing agents.
I'm like, it's always been negotiable.
That's not changing at
all. I think
in
some people's minds, they think it wasn't negotiable. I think that was kind of the problem. I mean, even the guys writing these articles probably thought it wasn't negotiable, but it's always, I mean, it says it in the contract, everything is negotiable, at least in the California Association contracts. So I don't know. I just think a lot of people, they don't buy or sell very often. So sometimes I think they just think it's one way, and sometimes it's not exactly what they thought, but or they're just trying to get clicks. I don't know. So this guy, I think it's going to be worse for the buyer. Lee Wedge, associate producer in investments and real estate at the University of South Florida, told Yahoo Finance, buyers will probably end up paying more money for the home because now that they have to come out with commission to pay the buyer agent because this is a seller's market.
Yeah. And I think the sad part is if there is a negative through all this for the buyers, it's going to impact the buyers at the lowest price points the most. It's going to impact the first-time buyers, the people that can't afford to pay for an agent and are getting squeezed the most. That's who it's going to impact the most, and that part is really, really sad.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it continues the direction it's always continued to do, when sellers will credit for the commission for the buyer's agent, it shouldn't change that much, but it's probably going to be somewhere in between. I think it'll be different. It just, we're going to have to adapt. People are going to have to get accustomed to one way. And there'll be some sellers that say, I'm not going to pay it no matter what. Probably. But you could always put, even when you were selling your house before, you could put $1 on the MLS. So, which I have seen like very infrequently, but occasionally you would have see it. So, we're figuring this out as we go, and we'll definitely see how it progresses through the next few months. And someone had just asked, let me put this up on the screen. When does this go into effect? Summer or fall? And are you seeing a lot of buyers trying to negotiate with you even before the rules are in place? No, I mean, this really just happened, so it hasn't been a whole lot. There's really nothing to negotiate until it goes into place. And then you're gonna have to sign contracts with buyers agents going forward, so that'll be different. Like before, a lot of states require you to do that, but California wasn't one of them, and I never really insisted on having buyers sign buyer broker agreements. So
yeah, I had one buyer that just put in an offer, and there was a dash of hesitancy before putting in the offer because of all these headlines coming out of just uncertainty over the next couple of months. But we worked through that pretty quick.
That's why we wanted to do this video too, so we can kind of help explain what the differences are, because if you just read headlines, it can be very confusing, I think. So
one other thing to note is everything we're mentioning, this is an agreed settlement. However, it still needs to be approved by the court. So we're pending that approval still. So it could potentially change. I don't know why it would. I'd be very surprised if it would. But then again, I think we were all pretty surprised by the settlement. So I mean, who the heck knows?
And we should know that we are not lawyers by any means. So we're just interpreting. We should probably have started with that, Dan.
Dude, we need to get Chris Benjamin on here. He is a lawyer.
Is he a lawyer? Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
This one says, don't expect home prices to drop, which is unlike what New York Times thought. There were going to be huge price drops on things. I'm probably more in the Yahoo Finance boat on this one. So I do not think, I mean, home price is all about supply and demand. And like I said, sellers aren't just going to take less money because they have to pay out less commission. It's all going to be part of the same boat, I think. So
yeah, agreed.
As long as we have a shortage of housing prices aren't going to go anywhere, Gilbert said. That is a smart man, it sounds like. Sellers want to get as much as they can, says Ryan Williams, a realtor and brokerage owner at Beth and Ryan in SoCal. Even though they are paying for less for commission, they're not going to lower the price of their house. I agree. It doesn't make their home any less valuable just because they're getting more in the end. I've been negotiating for years, Williams said. I don't think I've ever been paid 6%. Only in the market competitive for the buyer, but it's competitive for agents. Yes, the market here in San Diego, we'll leave that for another video. We're not going to talk about the housing market just today.
So you guys can see the range of articles that are out there right now, and
it's just like kind of the general gist of it. And I wanted to
one end to the other.
Yeah, I'll remove this for now. And I have these are all the rule changes. I know we kind of already went through these, but I'll go through them real fast just so you can kind of see what is changing. Let me see if I can get this up. How do I switch this? Sorry. To stage, not that one.
All right.
Sorry.
Well, while you're doing this, I can tell you, I think there are some positives in here. We're not going to sit here and say there aren't any positives. I think although I'm afraid of a lack of transparency for some specific situations, I think that is going to increase, but it's starting at a small amount. It's only going to increase by a little bit, I would imagine. It is going to add some transparency to buyers and buyers agents. And it's going to increase, like you said, Bern, the professionalism that a buyer is going to have to express with a potential client upfront. And it's going to force us to really clearly display and articulate our value proposition to them before buying a house. Because you and I both know, Bern, how many times you've been in a situation where it's been just a battle to get through. And being that person that our clients could lean on, that could ask questions to help them through the process, to not get taken advantage of through the negotiations. Because it's not just how much is this house. You have like 3 more negotiating points throughout the entire process. So having someone to have your back through all of those, I mean, we know the value of that. And I know that it's like low hanging fruit for some people to look at our profession in a negative way, and it's just as sleazy salespeople. Like, that's just what we have to deal with. It is what it is. But you and I know,
you're never going to change everyone's mind, which is fine, obviously, with any industry. But like we've been doing this for a while. We've sold hundreds of houses, and we learn something new every single time we sell a house. So I just feel like if you only do this once or twice in your lifetime, hiring someone to help you, I think even I probably had that mindset when I was younger. I'm still like, oh, do I really need someone to do it? I'm like, I already can look online for my house. That's all I need to do. Like even have some people that think, oh, like I found my house myself online. That's the easiest part about finding, like, the actual transaction is finding a house online. Anybody can do that. Obviously, we all have access to the same houses and that sort of things. But trying to get from point A to point Z through the trash, there's a million things that go wrong. Like what inspections do, what contractors to use, which ones not to use. There's so many moving parts to it that you can't even like explain to the amount of things that you actually do during a transaction and how many hours you actually work on it to get from that point. You can go 6 months without someone buying a house, and you don't get paid $1 until they actually buy and close on the house. So.
And you could show 500 homes during that time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, trust me. I've had some clients, which I love every minute of it, but sometimes they can take a year or longer sometimes to buy a house. So okay, let me get this thing.
Yeah, and there are some, like, I read a couple of things where in these articles where they're saying, look, it could change the way that things are done. Maybe it's based on an hourly rate. Like, could you imagine the stress that you would have as a buyer that's had a really challenging time finding a home over the course of 6 or 12 months and just seeing these dollar bills add up based on your hourly rate? Like, yikes. That's
no crazy. One wants to pay a realtor hourly. Trust me, you'd be paying a lot more money if you're doing it that way. I can't share this document because it's a PDF for some reason. But we went through most of the changes anyway, so that should be fine. Let me see if we have any questions and we can get to. If you guys have any questions about this that we can help answer, feel free to put them in the chat, or we'd be happy to answer them for you.
If you think we're crazy trolls and we just don't know what we're talking about, let us know. I always like to see that too.
Chris Williams says the band is back together. Yes.
What's up, Chris?
What's up, Chris? Hey guys, can we please work on lowering?
Yes,
especially 92129 is where my office is, and I live in 92129, and the market here is just like on a different level than a lot of San Diego's. This one, Carmel Valley, Forest Ranch, all these areas are just going a little bit crazy as far as pricing goes. My client put an offer on two different houses over like a 3-week period, and they both went $250,000 over. And they weren't even they priced a little bit low, but not dramatically low I just feel like everyone in their mind, no matter what it's listed at in this area, goes $150 to $250 and over, no matter what we listed at. Which I don't know why. It's just this little pocket of San Diego, which is a little crazy. So,
well, Bern, for Larry, can you work on that? You think?
Yeah, I'm working on it, Larry. Let's see what I can do, because this is getting.
Larry, we would if we could, man. We don't like having to do this.
If everybody's selling their house in 92129 and don't want to put it on the market, let my clients know. So
there you go.
So, there's definitely some bloat.
Glad it's not just us, Chris.
Yes. We already did this one, right? Oh yeah, yeah. So this takes place supposedly in mid summer, July 15th, I think is the date. Sometimes these things get pushed too, but we'll see what happens with that. Most would agree this will help weed out the bloat of fly-by-fly night show. I mean, if that does happen, I think that'll be just a good thing for buyers, sellers, and other realtors, just because we take this job very, very seriously. I think, Dan, would you agree?
Yeah.
I think sometimes some people just get into it, just make some extra cash, which I think if those people were to leave the industry, I don't think we would be super upset. No offense to part-time realtors.
No, full offense, all of you part-time. Look, here's the thing, Bern. There are more real estate agents in San Diego County than there were the total number of homes sold all of last year.
Well, was there 23,000 real estate agents? Is that what it was, or something like that?
No, I mean, here's a tough thing. It's hard to figure out exactly how many.
I know.
I heard it's closer to 30,000, and I believe it was.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe it was 26,000 homes were sold in San Diego County last year. So I guess let's just say about the same amount of homes as total number of real estate agents.
Okay, so if we lost a few, it wouldn't be the end of the world, probably, right?
We could cut that in half and turn the professionalism up. I think that would be fantastic.
Definitely. Chris is on fire over here. Most would agree this will help. Oh, did I just do that one already? Hold on. Oh, you said it twice. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, he said it 3 times. Okay. Thanks. There's 3 comments on here.
Chris is fired up.
So yeah, you guys have any last questions before we go? Any last thoughts about this, Dan, that you want to spread to everybody in YouTube land?
You know, I like just to give you a little perspective on our end. It's been a really interesting week, and really, I think for the agents that see this as a true profession and really put in the time and effort to help people, our focus this week is kind of just exactly what I was saying. It's like, how do we do a better job of showing our value up front instead of just doing what we've done up until this point, which is, hey, we'll just build up rapport by showing homes. And then when you're ready, then we'll put in an offer and we know we'll help guide you through this process. It's like, how do we front load all that so you can see and know exactly what the experience is going to be like before you sign on the dotted line, before we have to show that first house. So that's what I've been working on like crazy the last couple of days. But yeah, it's an interesting time, and for everyone out there that's feeling the pain, we know, and we're sorry, and we wish that we could have an impact on home prices. But like Bern said, the only thing that's going to bring prices down is the one thing we need. It's an inventory issue. We need more homes.
And there's really no, especially in like the greater San Diego, if you go to the outskirts, there's still room to build, but like in like anywhere around like downtown San Diego to central San Diego to like North counties, even like the prime North County area, there's just running out of places to build. And when they're building like lots of apartments. So, which is great. We also need people to be able to rent places from. But if you're looking to purchase, especially from first-time home buyers anywhere in San Diego, like what's the first-time home buyer price now? Like $1 million to buy a house here in San Diego?
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at the median price home is under $1 million, but the median price detached home, which is what a lot of first-time buyers are looking for, is just over $1 million.
Yeah, because we moved here in not to go on a tangent about this, but like we moved here in 2016 because we moved from Los Angeles because it was cheaper, a little bit like slower pace of life, which we kind of were looking forward to. We had our first kid, and now I'm not sure if it's what the median home price in LA is now, but we were at least very close to LA's, or if not higher than LA. So it just became a pretty affordable city to a very, very expensive city in a short period of time.
Yeah, I think in January, we were the market that appreciated the most across the US.
Yeah, I saw that. And I think if you look at the numbers from like even like December versus when we see the numbers come out in like April, the jump is going to be huge, especially in the areas that I work in mostly.
Yeah, I agree. It's been really wild the last couple of months. I feel like it's just, it's always such a weird market. It's like, and this is the importance of working with someone that's very active in the market, because you're constantly trying to put your finger on exactly what is going on in your market and like how people are reacting to offers and submitting offers, so that you can know how to be strategic and not overpay and still get your offers accepted. And like right now, Bern, we have some of the homes are going for 200,000 over asking, like you said, and some of them like aren't even getting an offer where they absolutely should be getting an offer at price.
The market is so quirky right now, and I'm just trying to get my own. I mean, we're out there every single day, and I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around which way is up, because some areas are super, super hot and some areas are like normal.
Yep.
So it's just, you know, some areas are just very, very hot and I can't explain it. I mean, the area that I work in, it's like good schools, pretty centrally located. And I just feel like everybody and their mother is trying to just live in these zip codes. And it's just, the bidding wars are getting just crazy. Like this area of Park Village over here that we've been trying to get offers accepted is like, we're going way over any comp to get it. And then someone else is going $50,000 higher than that. So it's just, I don't know. It's just craziness going on right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, one last question here, and then we'll probably have to wrap it up.
Ross, what's going on, man?
I hear we have a shortage of plumbers and make good money too. Something to consider. I mean, if you probably make really good money if you were a plumber here in San Diego right now, because those are hard to find. That, electricians, any of the trade positions, I think you can make a lot of money living here in San Diego doing
Agreed.
it. So, especially if you're good and you actually show up.
Yeah, Ross, we'll get you all that money you need so you can buy that sweet little Craftsman down in in Normal Heights or Mission Hills or something like that.
Yes, the house that plumber built. So okay, cool. Well, that was our recap of the NAR lawsuit. Hopefully you guys found it helpful. If you guys ever have questions about it from me or Dan, feel free to reach out. And if you guys don't always follow Dan already, you probably already do if you know me, because we are on each other's channels quite a bit. And if you're ever looking to buy or sell here in San Diego, feel free to reach out to either one of us.
Appreciate you, Bern.
All right, Dan.
Good, man. I hope it was helpful for people.
Yeah, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye, guys.